This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Mathias Omotola is the manager of events and community outreach for MaxHans US. There, he oversees strategic development, event marketing, business planning, and user group outreach. Hello, Mathias. Welcome.
Hello, Larry. How are you?
I am delighted. I've known MaxHans for a long time, and I love talking about Cinema 4D, so I'm really glad that you're here.
I'm extra glad. Thanks for having me. I always see you at NAB, so I'm lucky to be here in the studio.
Yeah, but you're surrounded by so many people with all the work that you're doing.
It's true.
We're going to talk more about that in just a minute, but before we do, how would you describe your role at MaxHans?
Yeah, it's for me, it's a dream come true. First of all,
how long have you been there?
Not long enough. So it really has been a joy. So started, I believe it's like 5 or 6 years. I can't even. It's a year off, but at this point. But when I started and I sat down with Rick Barrett and Paul Babb, Paul the CEO and Rick the VP of Operations there, really fell in love with the small culture and how close it is to artists in the community. So what I'm doing with the company is pretty much all the events. So any events that take place from Canada down to Chile, I'm pretty much involved with the planning, either getting artists there, the entire production, everything else, as well as some original things. One of the things we're doing right now is an 8-city roadshow this fall. So that's completely independent, something that was put together. And when I'm not doing the events, I'm actually reaching out to the community to find who can either present in a future opportunity and a future event, or other partners, so plug-in developers, other technology that would work well with MaxHans, and introducing them to the team and developers.
Well, I want to talk about the community part in just a minute, but let's focus on events. We're talking things like SIGGRAPH and NAB. We're not just talking something in a hotel room, correct?
Yeah, very, very, very true. So the biggest ones are NAB, SIGGRAPH, but we're also at GDC, the Game Developers Conference, South by Southwest. Just finished up Adobe Max. We'll be at After Effects World. Anywhere you find artists that are, potentially using Cinema 4D, 3D, you'll find me somewhere nearby or an air, listening to what's happening. But that's where we're at.
So NAB is a show that we both know, unfortunately, way too well. It's massive beyond words to describe.
Yeah.
MaxHans Booth is about the size of Rhode Island. What's it like to put one of those events together? When do you start working, and how much advanced planning are you doing? I mean, walk me through the process.
So, all right, how much time do you have?
More than
So the planning process actually starts now. Right now, I'm already getting phone calls from the NAB show, different locations. So by December, I'm pretty much reaching out to all the talent that I have, but all year long, I'm collecting talent. So there's usually some key guys. I know you had on your show, Casey Hupke. He's presented with us several times. Jace Hansen, I'm still trying to get him on board. He's a busy man, but I'm always searching for talent, and usually by December, January, talent's locked in. But in December, I have already the hotel booked, already have our meeting conference rooms booked, and then it's just about logistics after that. And
now, are you handling staffing and,
top down,
shipping
full production?
So if something goes wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah, it really is, unfortunately. So it's like wrangling cats too, because artists, everybody has different schedules. Sometimes we'll have an artist that has to get pulled last minute because they're on a major project and they just can't miss it. So those things are unfortunate, but luckily there's so many amazing, talented artists nowadays in cinema that we're able to, it's basically a waiting list.
Well, you've got an amazing group of talent that you're pulling from. What criteria do you use to decide if they should be in the booth?
Well, this goes back to community. So it's not just quality of work, it's also quality of person, because there's a lot of people that can do amazing work, but if they're not personable, they're not able to talk to the audience, they're not able to inspire, engage, or explain even what they're doing artistically. It's pretty much like a magician. They can, give a good show, but you can't go home and say, hey, I want to do that too. You're just like, they're amazing. And so
because they're actually representing the company, so there's a huge PR function, even though it's implicit rather than explicit.
Yeah, yes and no. We do allow them. We try and keep the spotlight on the artist. That's one of the things that I think that keeps cinema unique. You don't see a lot of sales pitches from us, and luckily we don't have to. We feel that the artist can do the majority of the talking, and the work that they do kind of speaks volumes for it. So we try and keep keep them as original as possible because that's what people like.
Now, you're using the word cinema. I assume that means Cinema 4D, which is your lead product.
Yes.
Just making sure that we've got the
Yes,
right
cinema,
acronym. When you've talked about the role that you have in building communities and the fact that you're using communities to pull your artists from. Why are communities so important?
Oh, man. Well, a lot of reasons. But community basically is going to shape art. If Leonardo da Vinci was born in, Chicago now, would he be Leonardo da Vinci? Or would he just be another Chicago artist? I think a lot has to do with the environment that's created for artists. And our role as people who actually support and engage the community is to provide that environment in which they can flourish. So one of the things like going to events and engaging, inspiring, educating, and motivating, doing those different things that create that environment so artists feel great. They feel like, hey, I'm supported. I have the tools available to me. I have mentors. I have sponsors. There's people who care about me being successful in this, and I have resources that will allow me to succeed so I can express myself. So to me, community is all about environment.
But it could also be argued that art is really a solo endeavor, especially when you're drawing. There's not a group of people that are drawing. It's really just the artist sitting there with the tools and their imagination, creating something that has never existed before. Where does the support come in?
Well, I think when you're looking at pencil art, it's definitely different. One of the things, when I started personally as an artist and I went to school and I wanted to learn 3D animation and VFX, I went and I saw they were teaching a different 3D program and I got my degree in economics.
Of course, it made perfect sense.
Yeah, so that was an easy transition for me.
Like all smart artists, you've got a backup plan B in case you need it.
Yeah, that was a fail-safe, unfortunately. But the thing is, with the tools and technology nowadays, there is a learning curve. So you're not just going to go off into a forest and do 3D animation and learn cinema. You might, if you have some power out there, you could plug in, hit the help system, and go for it. But nowadays, I think for artists, you're going to be pretty much solo most of the time. But you're often working in teams. You're working on collective projects. And the more tools and resources that you have that you can access, as well as the support that you can get from other artists and mentors, that's going to encourage you to be able to push further and maybe even try things that you thought were too technically, challenging before. And that's what a lot of our artists do up on stage at NAB and SIGGRAPH.
Well, you've got artists in a variety of different industry groups. There's video games, there's movie production, there's visual effects. Do they need the same level of support, the same kind of community, or are the communities different depending upon the tasks that they're doing? And are they looking at you for different resources?
Excellent question, and the answer is yes. So there's different, not just community, but there's also culture. So the video game culture is very different from the VFX culture, even though a lot of the cultures actually pull from the same things, a lot of sci-fi inspiration, the medical illustration animation community, completely different than just general VFX and motion graphics because they're very technical and they have to tell a story specifically. So it is very different when it comes to different communities.
Well, MaxHans has developed a really cool training resource that Paul Babb has talked about several times on the show called Cineversity, which is an online training facility for artists to learn how Cinema 4D works because it's not for the faint of heart. But one of the things that you guys go after is the beginner.
Definitely.
And how do you encourage when they see the work at NAB of your artists, which is just breathtaking? It's I can't begin to imagine how they create it. And here I want to start a career in Cinema 4D, and I look at this and I say, I don't even know where to start.
Right.
How do you encourage them to ask questions, and how do you encourage them to get the help that they need so they're less intimidated and more creative?
Definitely. The first thing is, if anybody who's out there like that, I try and engage with them on a one-on-one basis as much as possible. If they meet me on a trade show, I'll actually jump into a demo at any given time because Cinema 4D, luckily, has liberated me from my life of just economics, and now I can actually pick up the tool and do some things. So
That's very cool.
It's the fastest, easiest to learn, the best integration with the tools that they're pretty much probably already using in the Adobe suites and stuff like that. So within 5 minutes, I can usually give people an overview of the interface. Our youngest user that I've come across is 5 years old.
5 years old.
5 years old. It was in South by Southwest. Her dad came up and said, my daughter uses this to make titles for her YouTube channel. and I was blown away.
That's just scary, isn't it? I mean, it's just. I mean,
like,
why do the rest of us bother to show
why
up?
do we show up? The next generation, folks. So it is that easy. There are just a couple basic things that you need to learn, and once you get started and you learn the interface, and it doesn't get so intimidating because surprisingly, 3D, we're used to that. 2D and trying to add perspective and everything else, we live in a 3D environment. We have the lights, we have the stage, you know how if a light's farther away, how it casts shadows, all those different things. 3D is that. But then you're just adding the element of time. That's why Cinema 4D, because you're now able to control all those parameters. So it's a lot to control, but it's something that you're already used to. You're already in the environment.
What's the, you work with business development. Oh, I had to read my question several times to understand it because I'm so fascinated with what you're having to say. I'm not looking at my notes. What's the difference between engaging in business development and creating an experience for customers? Because that one is a sales job, and the other is enhancing the bonds between the company and the end user, which is not the same thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a hard role to play both sides of, isn't it?
That's where the economics comes in, right? So, yeah, it's definitely a creative position because we do work with a lot of other, partner companies. And on the roadshow, we have, sponsors such as Dell, NVIDIA, Adobe, Grayscale Gorilla. So we have a ton of sponsors throughout different activities. One of the things is the focus for MaxHans, once again, the focus is on being on the artist, is what can we do between the companies that is going to give a quality experience for the customer, that is going to inspire, that is going to help them out with their workflow, that is going to improve their ability to create. A sales pitch is only as good as what it's actually going to do for the artist. So if I say, hey, this machine is so much faster, it does all this other stuff, well, in the nuts and bolts, how is it going to affect my workflow? What is it going to be like in my day-to-day life? And that's one of the things that I think about when we're looking at partners is, hey, that's a tool and a plugin that helps create amazing particles. Great. We have people looking for that. That does fluid simulation. There's different things that we do, well. And Cinema 4D is kind of like a hub where a lot of different things can plug in. It's plugging into your workflow for all different types of things. And, we focus on what else can be plugged in to create that full experience. Even though you can have that full experience with cinema, the community is always building more tools. So we just find out how to solve problems for them.
Are you seeing the requirements that artists have for Cinema 4D is changing? Are they looking to do or create different things over the last 2 or 3 years, or are they using the tool essentially the same way?
Yeah, I think right now everything's evolving, so it's always in a state of flux, and I think everyone wants to be able to make Jurassic Park and Toy Story. That's what pretty much our number one question is: how do I make Toy Story? How do I make Jurassic Park? And I think,
can you with Cinema 4D?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can do all that, and now you could probably do it just on your laptop. What you have there compared to the hardware you need. And the truth is, we are used in high-end vis effects and everything else, but there is also the techniques to understand animation. It's not just one click and now my idea's out, but there is a techniques. There's a lighting.
There's not a dinosaur button.
There's a dinosaur preset, so it's in there. You're just gonna have to do a little bit more. But yeah, so that's one of the things is as art and art styles evolve, we're seeing it used all over the place. We're seeing it in VR environments. We're seeing live events. So we're seeing it in unconventional ways. I've been using it recently on a comic book project. So one of my friends, Satine, she's doing a comic book, New Praetorians just came out, and she was looking for environments. So I was able to actually create labs and environments, and then instead of her having to redraw every single line, she was able to use the perspective that was already built. So backgrounds, there's endless uses. Anything that you can think of, you can actually use. So it's evolving a lot.
We're seeing the art is changing, and I'm seeing the industry is changing, especially since 2008 with the financial conditions. Are you seeing the environment for trade shows changing?
Oh, definitely.
How so?
Unfortunately. So somewhat. I think now, just seeing at NAB, and when I first started, NAB was very segmented. So you had Central Hall, which had all of our, satellite information and things there. In South Lower, you had most of our software guys, and then you had a section for audio and everything else. Now it's pretty much everyone everywhere. So
that's because everybody was going to South Lower and the other halls were empty. That's the reason.
It's very true. But I think one of the things that happens is it's becoming like the 90s internet where you have nothing but pop-up ads. everyone's just fighting for attention. So if they can get a sponsor dollar here to move and bump it over. And, I think there's some good and bad. It's good because the trade shows continue to be successful, so we have them and we can have the networking.
But only at the larger sizes. I'm seeing small shows are struggling to succeed.
Yeah, there are, smaller shows that have shut their doors as well. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but that's where I think the larger shows get more noisy because everyone's just trying to pack in there, where I think the user experience would actually go up if more of the larger companies would support more of the smaller shows, and as well as the larger shows stay segmented. Because if you're an audio guy, you don't really need the satellite. So walking by,
but they are so cool to look at.
It is, but it's not an impulse buy. No. So walking by, I'm not going to drop 150
I almost bought a $3 million helicopter.
Oh, well, yeah, that's an impulse
There was
buy.
no money for in a checkbook, but I would have bought it had I had it. Yes, absolutely. What projects you working on next? You buried in NAB next year? You got something coming up before that?
Well, right now it's all the road show. So starting October 20th, we're going to be at LA. So we go from LA to Portland that week. So it's the 20th to 22nd, LA, Portland, and then we're in Seattle, and then we're in San Fran, and then we're in Vancouver, New York, Atlanta, and then finish up in DC. So, and I have trade shows going on at New York the same time the road show. So there's some overlap there, but this is something that we wanted to do for a while.
You'll sleep when you get back.
Oh, yeah, on weekends.
For people that want information about the trade shows or Maxon in general, where can they go on the web?
They can just go to maxon.net. Yeah,
Maxon.net, not
Maxon.net.
Maxon.com.
Exactly. You'll find the trucking company there.
Matthias Omotola, correct?
Very correct.
Is event coordinator overall with Maxon. And Matthias, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Larry.
Take care. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. To stay connected and receive updates from The Buzz, sign up for our free weekly newsletter now. Or you can learn more about us on our website. And thanks for watching The Digital Production Buzz.